Hi y'all, and welcome back to the garden. It has been a rainy, gross day today, but I haven't shot a video in about 2 weeks, so I wanted to come out here and show you some things in the garden and tell you about how I am handling fall right now, this time of year when we're just kind of winding down a little bit. I'm trying to be purposefully restful myself. This is the time of year as we go into the holiday season that you should really go out there and support your local garden centers too, particularly if you're into holiday decorating. I went Friday to 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, the local garden center where I took you last year to show you their poinsettia growing operation, and purchased some cyclamen, and I'll pop those on the screen, and got some poinsettias and a lemon cypress that are really gorgeous and looking really great. They're actually having like a winter fall open house this coming Saturday. So if you're local, come out and see them, get you some decorations for fall. There's also an event there, a fundraising event for a women's cancer organization, so that'll be fun. As you can see behind me, or as you may have seen when I just walked by, I found a trellis for this wall that I think is going to work really good, but I want to know your thoughts. I was originally looking for something a little more modern right here, but I think by the time it's in the ground, it's just leaning against the wall right now, and I'm going to put it back in the barn for winter so I can properly concrete it in the spring. So it'll be about a foot or so shorter by the time these legs, you can see how long they are where they were welded together, are in the ground, so to provide some nice structure. I may possibly have to remove these roses and just to get this in the ground and then immediately plant them back in the spring. She'll be fine. Roses are really resilient. But let me know your thoughts on this. I kind of really love it. It's very visible because it's such a bold, thick structure. You can even see it from the road, way out in the yard. And so I think it'll be a really nice structure for these climbing roses. The person who built it is actually the man who originally built the fence on this house, Bill Merker, 20 to 30 years ago. I'm not sure when the original fence was put in. I imagine it was pretty good while ago. And we've actually had him come out and do some repairs to the fence, and we've still got to do some other things to the fence. But I think this is really gorgeous, and it will make a really nice statement piece right here. I also, you may notice, have landscape lights, path lights that I installed a couple weeks ago. You may, if you were watching carefully, have noticed those in the last video I put out where I was doing the edging on this bed, which is still looking really good. I didn't shoot a video installing those because it was the first time really I had dealt with low voltage lighting. But it's not hard, and I had done a lot of research last year when I was wanting to put low voltage in at the last house, and then it just didn't happen, and I'm kind of glad it didn't because we moved unexpectedly. So these are path lights. Some of them need to be straightened up, but I'm not going to focus or do any of that this fall because we have such a hard frost heave cycle here. They may just come out in spring and be crooked anyway. So in the spring, I'll come through after we have our last freezes are over and straighten these path lights up a little bit. But you can see I've just kind of dotted them along the pathway, alternating all the way down. I tapped into the existing box that was here. The nice thing about landscape lighting these days is most everything is LED. I think you can probably still find some incandescent stuff, but if you purchase LED, these path lights are like 2 watts a piece, and your transformers are typically 100 to up to 600, I think, watts capacity wise. So you can fit a lot of lights these days on transformers. And so every one of these lights I installed is probably still under 40, well, I guess it'd be less than 50 watts, because I did add an extra spotlight that I had sitting around on this oak here. This is the Kindred Spirit oak that I love so much. That's very upright. That'll stay really skinny and just provide a nice focus, and has an amazing yellow fall color. So you can see I tapped into the line here. These are the same type of line that you would use for Christmas light line. If you've ever done Christmas lighting with the vampire plug, same scenario there. These little adapters here have like needle type things that poke into the wire to complete the connection, and it connects directly to the little light here. You don't have to worry about getting electrocuted because it's only 12 volts, and you can bury the electrical line the low voltage under the ground. I'm going to keep it up a little bit and just cover it really heavily with mulch in the spring. And because I'm going to be doing a lot of planting in this bed, I don't think I'm going to be covering it with mulch this fall, because you'll notice I left it out a little bit. This is kind of what I expect to be my annual edge, and so all the annuals kind of will form a border around this, and I don't want to have to be constantly worrying about hitting it when I'm planting in those spaces. So this one's a little more different because it had to be further back, but I imagine this will be filled with annuals and maybe a fountain one day in this location. Still kind of figuring out what I can put here sizing wise, and that may not be something I do next year, but it's definitely something I want up here in the front is a water feature. So it's been raining on and off today, and I was wanting to do a little foraging on the property to find some little evergreen cuttings and some pine cones. There's not a whole lot on this property, and honestly, that's one of the things I want to focus on this coming year, along with the cut flower garden. Is one of the goals out by the cut flower garden, which you can kind of see back there where the property line ends. The tarp for the cut flower garden is on the ground. I've not expanded it yet, but I'm probably going to. But the property line goes pretty far back there to about here. I want to develop some cut shrubs. So I'm talking about red twig dogwoods, yellow twig dogwoods, wintergreen, or winterberry holly, I mean. Those type of things, even maybe some rows of hydrangeas that I can cut on without having to cut on plants in my landscape. I think I can do it kind of like a design back there rather than just simply hedgerows of plants, but it would also just be really simple for foraging purposes to just do hedges of things, and then I could come cut them for fall decorating. Particularly red twig dogwoods, winterberry hollies are really great for fall, and so are hydrangeas over winter. And then I want to add, of course, some more magnolias to the property, southern magnolias in particular, so I can use the leaves for projects and wreaths and containers and stuff in the fall. You'll notice I didn't do a whole lot this year as far as like fall decorating, winter decorating. I still may not. We're still very much in a process of getting settled into this home. And so while I used to love doing Christmas lights and stuff, I don't know that I'm going to get to that this year, because I would typically have put those up a little earlier and not turn them on until after Thanksgiving. But it's getting cool pretty quickly here, and this southern boy does not like to be out in this gross Ohio winter weather. And that's another thing about living up here. It's so cold in January, and I'm not one to leave that stuff out after the holidays very long, and then you have to come out here and it is really cold to get it all removed. And so I'm not sure that I'll do anything this year, but in the future I would like to light these very upright trees, maybe light the juniper, and do some more things out here that would be really beautiful. Curb appeal, even though we're pretty far off the road. You can see a lot of these plants are kind of settling in to their late fall winter color. We've got these fire chief arborvitaes that are turning more orange, which is kind of their winter color. It kind of looks like they're you'll see on some arborvitaes that they turn brown, and that's more like a winter burn. These are just naturally turn a little orangey looking in winter. The mugo pine's looking really great actually since they got in the ground. And then we have these Feather Falls carex, which are pretty evergreen here. I typically come back in spring and cut those back to the ground with just a weed eater. And let them come back fresh, but they do hold their foliage pretty good up here in Zone 6, Ohio, Southwest Ohio. Speaking of zones, you may have noticed that the USDA came out with a new map, and some of you may have changed growing zones. I'm not very particular about whether I was 6A or 6B here. Some of you that are more local and are more into knowing that exactly may know whether we locally change zones between a 6A and a 6B, but 5 degrees growing wise isn't that much of a difference, and so I never really broke it down into 6A and 6B because I was very much in a transition zone anyway, where it kind of moved from 6A to 6B at the previous property, and it's going to be very similar here as well. So we didn't change a full numeric zone at this property. which I was really hopeful for when I saw it initially. They were all shaded various shades of greens, and I got the shades mixed up, and I was like, oh, we're at zone 7, because we've not had a super cold winter here in 5 or so years. And I was hoping we had kind of moved up a zone so I could trial some other things, but I think I might trial some zone 7 plants anyway, because like I said, we've not had a typical zone 6 winter in, from what I've seen, quite a while. I've been keeping an eye on some of the things I planted, like this tiny, what is this? This is a blue fault cypress, pinpoint blue fault cypress, that's going to be very conical here in like this corner transition side of the house. And I've been keeping an eye on all of the things I planted this fall to see how they're coming through, because we have had some pretty cold temperatures, below freezing already. Everything seems to be doing pretty well, which is I'm really thankful for. I tried to mulch everything really well before fall. Let's go take a look at one of the flower beds I planted about a month and a half ago on camera and see how those are coming along. The weather in general over the past couple weeks has been kind of yucky, and it's one of the reasons I haven't shot a whole lot of videos, but let's take a look at this bed that I planted a couple months ago. So we've got an oak leaf hydrangea. This is 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 star, showing its really beautiful red fall color. I've noticed a lot of the oak leaf hydrangeas have not lost their leaves yet, so it's looking really nice. We've got some hellebore sprinkled in here. You can't really tell where I planted all of the hostas. They've already died back because we've had enough frost. So they will come back raging in the spring and look really beautiful in this space. All of the heuchera that I planted are looking really good. In winter, the leaves kind of fall down a little bit, but you can actually see like new growth already in here. These typically are semi-evergreen here to fully evergreen, depending on the winters we have. They do kind of look a little rough in the spring, so I typically come back and cut the leaves off or back, and then they come raging back in spring with flushes of new growth. We still got some ferns showing. A lot of the ferns have died down. Those that are a little protected by some more mulch still look pretty good, including this autumn brilliance. I'm kind of shocked that these are still as upright as they are, considering how much cold we've had. But the hydrangeas look like they're settling in well as well. So this is Tough Stuff Top Fun. We have this Limelight Prime hedge here, and I've not got started on fixing the hedge around the fence yet. That's going to be, I thought it might be a fall project, but things just kind of got away from me. So it might be a March project. I started doing some edging back here, and the previous owners to this property, and maybe the original owners, had some concrete pieces that kind of lined these beds, and over the years they were not taken care of, and they're just kind of in the ground. So I've got to do some poking around and digging to find where the edges of those things are and get them out of the ground before I do so much planting. You can see here some of them, but it kind of goes on and then it just kind of disappears into the ground. You can kind of see where the bed may have been previously, and there's no rhyme or reason or distance from the fence that these concrete blocks are. So it's going to be very much a wait and see approach to poke around and find out where this stuff is. I want to showcase this verbena. This is a new one from Proven Winners that's coming out next year. It's pink cashmere, and we have had below freezing weather several times over the past several weeks, and it is still trying to bloom. I didn't realize verbena was so cold tolerant, especially like an annual, really prolific verbena like this, and it is just continues to put on growth. It's really, really incredible. So pink cashmere, you'll likely find it in garden centers around you next year. I really loved it because it's a really soft, delicate pastel pink and kind of pink and whitish. So it's one of my favorites. I don't know that I'll be able to get it next year or next spring, but if I can find it, I'm definitely going to add it to some containers. This bed is looking really nice with some fall color. I'll have to pull and see if I can remember what variety shrub this is. But look at that red. Pairs really nicely with the Helen von Stein bluish kind of lamb's ear and this grass right here, which I also cannot remember. This one I purchased online from Plants Delight Nursery. It's an acarus called Ogon. So really beautiful here. really full grass and really striking with its lemony color. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up this video here. Thank you guys for joining me. Let me know what you think about the arch and what you're doing this fall to prepare for spring. I've ordered lots of annuals, lots of perennials. I took some overhead footage of this bed behind me so I can go through with the drone and go through and kind of place out the perennials that I've ordered, see what other shrubs I might need to fill this space. I need to go through and remember what all I've planted in here, honestly. You may have noticed the little white tags in the ground in several different spaces. Those are spots that I stuck bulbs, daffodils, crocus, that type thing. They're going to remain over winter because if I do any early planting before those things come up, I didn't want to disturb any of the existing bulbs that I planted or plant where I would just have to move them later. So that was my way of putting little flags in the ground so I could find them. And remember to support your local garden centers. If you're local and want to come to Stockslager's on Saturday, I'll be there. You may be able to see me. I'll probably be picking out some greenery or maybe some more winter decorations for the home. Thank you guys for joining me. Stay warm and remember, be a light. Take care. Bye.